When Brian Harman rolled in his 271st and final shot of the Open, it brought an end to another season at the majors. They were wild and wonderful in their way and also served as a mirror of sorts to the wider undulations of golf. So what happened? And what comes next? Best major performance. It has been a fascinating year. Firstly with Jon Rahm catching and then passing Brooks Koepka to win the Masters, before Koepka himself won the USPGA Championship, his first major since 2019, and fifth overall to join a new tier of legends in the all-time standings. Given the scale of the American's difficulties with injury and the noise around his move to LIV, his re-emergence on the grandest stages has been great to watch. The U.S. Open was predominantly seen through the prism of Rory McIlroy's failure to deliver on the final day, but that did a disservice to the champion Wyndham Clark. He had never finished higher than 75th in a major, but with McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler in pursuit, he didn't flinch. His up-and-down par saves in the last loop were those of a man who knew how to rise to an occasion. With all of that being said, Harman's Open win was the performance of the major year. At a time when length is key, he was giving up acres off the tee, but his putting was masterful. In that killer zone of inside 10 feet, he made 58 out of 59. Peak Tiger Woods would have eaten your hand off for those figures. Biggest drama. Golf had its moments on the course, but LIV and the recent merger between enemy factions have again dominated talk away from it. Has that union changed much since the announcement of a framework agreement? So far nothing, beyond the cessation of legal actions. What the future looks like between the parties is still entirely unknown, as indeed are the prospects of this alliance working in any meaningful way. As an individual entity, LIV continues to operate at vast cost in the shadows, but recruitment has dried up and there are currently no signs of PGA Tour players crossing over to play their events in the near future. On the PGA Tour side, the rancor caused by their U-turn would seem to make the position of Commissioner Jay Monahan even more doubtful than that of his opposite number, Greg Norman. The Rory question. As ever with McIlroy, the temptation is to hyperventilate when he doesn't win, which in many ways is the price he pays for being so gifted. His results in the majors have been very strong, with the exception of that missed cut at the Masters, triggering an existential crisis of sorts in the four-time major winner. He rebounded with a 7th-placed finish via his C game at the USPGA, runner-up at the US Open, and tied 6th at Hoylake. On a technical basis, he remains arguably the best driver in the game, but his wedges let him down at the US Open and his putter was cold at the Open. If the components click, he has multiple more majors within his reach, but that requires clearing significant mental barriers, which will only intensify now that he is entering a 10th year without landing a big one. Major disappointment: the choice of LA Country Club to host the US Open. The course divided opinion, but the prevailing observation was that the atmosphere was not fit for a major championship. By hosting the tournament at one of the most exclusive clubs in the U.S., and the associated decision to bloat the grounds with corporate guests over genuine fans, it was awfully flat on all 4 days. Biggest conundrum. Aside from the questions around the merger, it feels somewhat surprising that Scottie Scheffler did not win a major this season. His Open disappointment, a tie for 23rd, was stark in contrast to a year in which he has had no fewer than 10 top 5 results. Tee to green, he is the finest player in the game by a street. With his putter he has been dire. The Ryder Cup. For all the fuss about the majors, the biggest event of the year is yet to come. The U.S. have not won on European soil for 30 years, but will be heavy favorites. Their depth of talent is astonishing, as shown by the left field major wins of Clark and Harman. They will both be on the team, with the latter particularly fascinating for his ability to hole clutch putts. Much of the narrative will center on LIV. Zach Johnson, the U.S. captain, has shown no interest in watching that tour, but Koepka will be prominent in his team. It remains to be seen if he gives picks to Dustin Johnson and Patrick Reed. He also faces a dilemma about the woefully out-of-form Justin Thomas, who ordinarily pairs so well with Jordan Spieth. Luke Donald will be heartened by the front three brilliance of Rahm, McIlroy and Viktor Hovland. He also has a solid engine room of Matt Fitzpatrick, Tyrrell Hatton, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose and Shane Lowry, with Sepp Straka's open finish of second fresh in his thinking.